Now, I'm aware of the danger of selecting a passage from the letter of Revelation. I'm sure that many of you have heard about Revelations, right? Yes, it's probably more popular in pop culture than any other passage or book in the Bible. Some folks use it as a literal guide about how they understand or what they believe to be end times, and others see it as rich symbolism. I'm not sure that there's such a straightforward read of Revelation. I believe that it is rich with symbolism. At first glance, it appears scary and dark, confusing, but the purpose of Revelation is to comfort folks on this side of God's kingdom, who remain in this life. We say that's what memorial services are for. The memorial service isn't for those who have passed. They've passed. They've received their reward. Memorial services are for those remaining in this life, to give comfort and hope. That's what Revelation is. It's a way to give comfort and hope to a people who were scared, to a people who were experiencing traumatic loss, that largely at the hands of the Roman Empire, that had been persecuting Christians and other religious minorities, been separating families and causing great harm. So there were folks in these Christian communities who were wrecked. They were feeling left and alone. They were feeling isolated, wondering, how do we make sense of this? How do we make sense of this loss that we're experiencing constantly in our lives? How do we understand God in all of this? And in the middle of this chaos and darkness, John has a vision of what life might look like on the other side, to help us live on this side. The passage this morning describes this glorious vision of when countless members of faithful people who lived through the great tribulation or the persecution of the government and now have gone on to Christ. The folks are robed in white and worshiping God. Just before this, there's a passage that John says that there's 144,000 people in the kingdom of God. Does that sound familiar to you? Some of you are nodding your head. That John says that there's going to be 144,000 people in the kingdom of God, and some folks have interpreted that to mean that there will only be 144,000 people in heaven. So look around, friends. It's a small group, right? The first pastor I ever worked for, he did his first funeral. He was in his 20s, and he went to go visit the family of the man who had just passed away. And his brother was sitting on the front porch in this rocking chair, and Steve, the pastor, he says, "Tell me about your brother Jim." And he said, "Pastor, if Jim getting in, we all getting in." The way John tells the story in Revelation, though, here, the 144,000, there was a symbolic number to represent all the tribes of Israel and the disciples. So it was saying that everybody, all of God's people. And the way John tells it in our passage today is that there's a multitude too great to count beyond the 144,000 people. The way John tells it, we're there with Jim, right? We all get in. That there were so many people gathered around the throne of God, worshiping, being protected and sheltered, wearing robes of white, which is symbolic for being made whole.